Good evening and salutations, my GH fans. This was a weird episode. For the majority of it, it was a weird episode. But we'll start off with Sonny and Christina in a sense, because this is the part that's kind of weird for me, right? Christina's there in 1 minute, and then we don't see Christina for like the rest of the episode. And it almost seemed like it was somewhat pointless for her to be there. Like, she's there with Sonny, and they're talking about Avery and everything like that. And, Christina still has an axe to grind with Ava. So they're talking about, well, Ava's having money troubles and stuff like that, and this would be the chance to strike to, get full custody and everything like that. And I'm kind of just like, why does this concern you? Why does this really sit there and concern him? I mean, why does this concern you for? Now, we know it's because she still blames Ava for the death of Della or Irene or whatever the hell they want to name this damn child. But and then on a certain level, and this is something that I want to sit there and talk about a little bit too. I saw an article. It was on Carius Clark channel. You know Carius. Isn't it there saying that the fans are upset that Christina keeps it there coming and attacking and lying and just always causing trouble with Ava? Which I think is kind of stupid to some extent. Because, I mean, let's be honest. If that happened to anybody in this chat or whatever, anybody in the comment section, you telling me that it wouldn't be on site every single time that you saw that person? So, I get that it's starting to become very repetitive, but at the same time, it's also human. But, with that being said, at some point, Sonny's like, I'll think about it. She goes in the room, sit there and play with Donna, I think, or Ava. I think it's Donna. Ava comes over. It was like, hey, listen, I need more child support money, right? Now Sonny already at this point, he already knows. She's like, oh, so this is about the IRS, right? And one of the things he gets upset with, he's like, listen, you sat there and you try to get more money out of me by using our child. That was lame. Let's just be honest. That was lame. You needed money. Okay, you needed money, and you tried to use your child, well, their child, our child, whatever, to sit there and try to squeeze more money out of them. And so now she's like, okay, cool. I'm going to lose everything. I need about like 2 mil. He was like, all right. And this is why I kind of start to lose respect for Sonny in a sense. Because now he's like, okay, so how about this? I'll give it to you. But you only get 2 months. You only get 2 weekends out of the month to sit there and see Avery. I'm like, why are you doing that? That just seems so unnecessary. We're still back to this. We're still back to this, right? Like you keep saying that one, Avery needs both of her parents. So how is that acceptable that she's only allowed to sit there and see her, 2 months? I mean, 2 weekends out of the month. That's number one. You're reneging back on that. Because he's like, oh well, that's the condition. Number two, didn't you want to sit there and try to avoid stress? Like, really? You think this is the better? Also, why are you doing this for? Why are you doing this for? Like, this just seems so unnecessary at this point. So, of course, they start going back and forth. Ava brings up Michael in the burn clinic and how she needs to protect Avery. Because, I mean, let's be honest, that did happen. It happened to Michael more than once. It's it's a thing, I mean, to be honest, regardless of how people feel about Ava, People are really since they're trying to come at her. Yeah, I remember the whole gun thing and everything like that. Apparently, they just kind of forgot about that. Or never mind. I think that's what that was with Ava, right? I guess they did a good job. Remember that whole storyline with the gun and everything like that being sent to Ava, and we never knew who sent it. And I guess with enough time, they just said, I guess they forgot about it. Case in point. Anyway, they go back and forth, right? And it gets to a heated discussion until it starts to affect Sonny's heart. Crouches down, grabs the medicine, falls. The medicine, is out of his reach. He was like, "What can I do? What can I do?" Then she's like, "Oh, I see you need that, right?" So this is pretty much where we are at this point. Then there's a scene with Gio and Ned and Emma. And long story short, they're like, "We have a solution. We don't have to move the family crib if you can sit there and scale back on the other side of the house, on the other side of the property. If you give the city the same amount of property that is so-called stolen, then it should be a win-win." I think she said something like along something happened to do with like animals or something like that, like more a habitat or some crap. But the point is, hey, you want to sit there and keep this land? You just had to give up another part of land on a property, and it'll be fine. And I'm like, okay, well, that sounds reasonable. And for some odd reason, Ned just said no. And I don't even understand why he said no, except for when it ends, Gio was like, well, he's a quartermain or whatever. It's like, yeah, he's practical and everything like that, but at the end of the day, he's a quartermain. I'm like, so you're saying that he's just greedy? He's just greedy and being unreasonable at this point. I mean, that's what I read from the situation. Maybe you could sit there and tell me something different. Um, Liz is Smith there asking Rick about how bad is Portia's situation. Like, she's like, listen, I know you can't sit there and tell me specifics, but how bad it is. So Rick is like, if you can get a year's worth of access, um, of every stuff, of everything that every test that Portia was access to, then that might help me out. If you can do it under the radar. Um, and then Emma has an idea, or Gio has an idea. I think it was Gio that has an idea, as far as maybe we should sit there and pitch it to a family member, and somebody in the family will be more receptive. I mean, it will make Ned and Tracy just, it make them more receptive to the idea of like giving up some land so that's where they can keep the crib, even though it's it just seems kind of stupid to even sit there and say no to that. Um, Harley comes over to sit there and see Jack, and Jack is like, he's already like, well, I get it, Jason pretty much wants. I think he was like, Jason wants us to end things, or you know, the fact that you were poisoned because of me. I want to sit there and end it because he feels guilty and stuff like that. But she's like, no. Um, but she does sit there and say like, I came here to give you a warning from Jason. Jason pretty much is like, something happens to me, the same thing's gonna happen to you. And at this point, Jack is like, I don't care. And Jason's like, and Carly's like, you should be scared. I'm like, no. I'm like, seriously, not everyone is afraid of Jason. The dude is not bulletproof. Okay, he's not bulletproof and he's not untouchable. Um, he was like, yo, listen, I have no fear in my heart when it comes to him. We talk a little bit, and long story short, they decide to keep seeing each other. Carly's like, well, what happens if something happens to me? It happens to you. Yeah, Jack is again. He's like, yo, listen, I'm not worried about that. But now she's worried that you know they're gonna go after each other. And I'm kind of just like, Carly, you can end this whole thing by going out with, I don't know, anybody else is not going to put your life in danger. I mean, there was one point where even Liz is like, maybe they're right. I'm like, Liz, come on, seriously? Like, not you too. We're not doing this with you now, also, right? Um, Tracy and Ned have to talk about the Brooklyn situation because um, Tracy figured out when she was at Deception that Brooklyn and Lois got into a fight. So you talk about that for a little bit. Tracy says she's going to figure it out. But then you talk about the Drew situation. And that is like, what happened? Like, what if we blackmail Drew by saying that we'll tell Willow that what she was doing with Nina, um, and that should stop the whole Crip thing or whatever, and back him off. But Tracy's like, let's use this something bigger. So let's wait on that. But then she's like, maybe we should sit there and use that to get to Nina. I don't know how Blackmail and Nina's really going to do anything, but she was like, we can do that with Nina. Like, okay. Um, Now back at Deception, Lulu's late. Is pissing Brooklyn off. On top of the fact that she keeps changing her passwords and everything like that. So she's just making her job and her life pretty much a living hell at this point. And, Lulu's seeing Jack just to make sure that, when Valentine goes to jail, he's going to stay in jail. And also, how much of a risk is that going to impose on Charlotte? But Jack, he eases her mind, Cynthia's saying people aren't going to come after Charlotte. And Valentine is, he's going to be there for a very long time. Until he's not. Until he's not. So, Lulu comes to work. And Brooklyn's like, well, damn, about time. Like, and can you also sit there and stop changing my passwords? She's like, okay, fine. I'll stop doing that, because I'm going to quit. And part of me's like, I thought you wanted to sit there and move out and have a place for you, Charlotte, and Rockham. How are you going to do that if you don't have a job? Like, I mean, the whole point of you sitting there getting a job is to be independent and start to sit there and not just get control of your life in a sense, but also for the kids. But she says she quits because of Chase, because she somehow synced Chase on her and told her about the encounter. And Brooklyn was like, yo, listen, I didn't know about that. I didn't know that he did that. Like, he didn't tell me that he did that. And don't sit there and try to act, and this is something that I did sit there and say, is that Chase used his position, his authority, his power as a cop to silence Brooklyn. So they're going back and forth, and of course it comes back up with the secret. And of course, Brooklyn's like, this doesn't concern you. Well, Lulu's like, it does because I have to lie to Dante, and also I have to lie to my son. Because now they gotta have, you know what I'm saying? Like, he has a half brother. So this is why she's like, it does concern me. I've seen it in the comment section. This is something I saw in Kyrisa's comment section. Um, how much does it really concern Lulu to be Smith there sticking her nose in it? Because I can see both sides. Ultimately, the way I look at it is that it's very small. It is minor. It's there, but it's minor though. Because that does concern Rocco. That he does have a half brother out there. How much? Eh, your guess is as good as mine, but it does concern Rocco. So it concerns Lulu. You can argue about the how much part. Um, they argue, it ultimately goes nowhere. And of course, Lulu brings up the fact that, the whole 5 years ago or 10 years ago, whatever, you came to town and seduced. And I'm not gonna lie, that's the part where it starts to get old. It's like, okay, we get it. Like, we get it, bro. Um, but I'm also just like, maybe you could just work at the hotel. I mean, seriously, and that's something else that I really don't understand. Why does she why does she want to work at Deception in the first place, knowing that she had to work with Brooklyn when she could have easily just got a job at the hotel? That like literally does not make any sense. So she's not, SOL or anything like that, but it just made me think now. I'm like, why don't she just not ask Carly? She had no problems not there using Carly when she first got up and she was at Nina's place. And she's like, I'm not going nowhere. She had no problems that they're using um, Carly in the sense of getting that hotel key to break into Martin's room. So why are you not utilizing that now? Um, the Josslyn, I don't even. What is this guy's name? I'm just going to call him the trainer at this point because I don't think they even actually said what his name was. I don't know what to make of it. It wasn't terrible. It wasn't just it wasn't just the usual. Oh, I'm gonna sit there and insult you, and then I'm gonna sit there and knock you around. But there's one point where after she gets back out and she kicks the guy and somehow hurts her foot or hurts her ankle, and I'm like, how did kicking him hurt you? Turned out that she had that injury 3 days ago and didn't say anything. And this is another one of those, as I like to sit there and say, teachable moments, um, where he tells her, like, hey, listen, you got to sit there and use judgment and know your limits, essentially, and know when to ask for help. He talked a little bit about his past as far as, his training and stuff like that, but nothing really came of it. But the dude wasn't that much of a dick. So, there's that. there's that. I think that's about it. I honestly tell you, I can't sit there and think of anything else that wound up happening. I might have missed some stuff. Even though I've been talking for like 18 minutes, I feel like I might have missed some stuff. Now, I'm not going to be doing a live stream tonight, but I will be back tomorrow, usual time, 8 p.m. 8 p.m. Eastern, 5 p.m. Pacific. And of course, I'll be sitting there talking about all the shows um, from today and tomorrow. And we'll get into it. Anything I missed, write in the comment section. Whatever your thoughts are, write in the comment section. And I will see you in the next video.